time in history, all 4 belts in the cruiserweight division will belong proudly around the waist of one man.
This is KUGAN CASSIUS for ITV in association with MTK Global. I have no idea what's going on today. I've been kidnapped.
Cruising around the West End, meetings. You're going to be joining me for some meetings, behind the scenes work. Actually working, KUGAN, you know, actually working. I know you grafting, but you know.
For people who don't know, I was literally just walking along the road. You pull up, and literally I get manhandled into the car. Yeah, off my own will.
Well, that was the bouncers, but no, it was no. I mean, you know, I wanted to take you for a ride. We always do interviews in places where it's a still background. You know, we're driving around now. Hope you see some interesting people while we're in there, more interesting than me, and your viewers are going to get a moving picture.
I know, I can see.
I'm thinking that this could be something for the future.
Can we just actually show people what we're in? It's like, I mean, this is mad.
Yeah. It's the World Boxing Super Series vehicle, which we've loaned for the day for a good friend.
How you been?
Very well. Very well. Very busy. Very busy. Obviously, looking for the finals coming up this summer, and probably more relevant for me at the moment as Chief Boxing Officer at the World Boxing Super Series is of course putting together season 2, which will be announced. Won't be announced all in one weight at the same time, but it will be announced as a rolling announcement, and we're close, I would say, 2-3 weeks out now, and it's exciting times. It's busy times. You know, it's a lot of work putting together. You know, fighters on contracts and discussions, and you know, so you try not to lose too much time.
Before we come on to season 2, I suppose the question everyone wants to know is, what is the update regarding the super middleweight final, where it's going to take place, when it's going to take place?
Yeah, absolutely.
I
mean, the final is Grove Smith, obviously. You know, the winners. George has undergone surgery. That surgery is being monitored by the best in the business in looking after that. And I had lunch with George actually recently, and saw he's got mobility in the shoulder. But you know, it's obviously something that George himself, also Kamoza, the board at the World Boxing Super Series, they'll be looking at very carefully as well. And of course George, who's, you know, this is certainly in the peak of his career, he'll want to go in there fully fit, and you know, we're just keeping in very, very close contact at the moment, and you know, that's where we stand.
The final is likely to be in July now, though.
Yeah, I think that's a realistic time frame. We're not going to get nailed down by anything. Ultimately, I'm just responsible for bringing the people into that ring, and the event guys will do their stuff on when and where and stuff like that. But I think they've got it right so far. You know, I certainly enjoyed Manchester.
Is there a question about where it will take place, what part of the country, whether it's even in the country?
I mean, I think, you know, I think realistically, and I know you like always answers for your viewers, I think realistically end of the month. You know, I think that gives us a couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks time. We'll know when, and bearing in mind that's sort of beginning of April, mid-April latest. I think that's still, you know, yeah, bear in mind that we're heading most likely for something in the summer, July potentially. I think that's still an early time frame. You know, still an early time frame. For me, it's more about managing now, about, you know, announcements on the next season. The gala, the draw, we'll be doing the same system, of course, like we did this year, where there's the 4 seeds who have their pick on the 4 unseeded fighters for the quarterfinals, and you know, it nicely goes into season 2, and that's something I'm really looking forward to do. Like I said, we're going to go for lighter weights this year as well, or next year as well. That's something I'm very, very interested about. I'm actually learning quite a lot, because I've as a promoter, I've always dealt with heavier weights, and I've often been envious of promoters dealing with the smaller weights, because some of my favourite fights come out of those small weights, and incredible. You know, whether you look at the bantams or the feathers or the lightweights, super lightweights, you know, not giving away too much, but there's certainly always top action in those divisions.
So has it actually been decided what the weights will be? Have you decided that, but you can't disclose that information, is that?
Ultimately, you know, I put a paper into the board with the weights I recommend, to give you a little bit of the way it works, and the board, you know, have given me a mandate on certain weight classes that are acceptable to them. So it's not a Kalle Sauerland decision. I get presented out there as the chief boxing officer, and I take that into my realm of understanding of the game, and I look also obviously at how to get the best guys into the tournament, which I think you know, can make arguments that certain super middleweights weren't in. There's reasons for that, but I think you've still got amazing action out of it. You've had some great fights, and you will have, at the end of the day, in the super middleweights, you'll have the guy to beat in the division. That's without a doubt. And I think in the cruiserweights, we had all 4 world champions in. I don't think you can say much about that. You just have a look at those semi-finals, and I'm still buzzing from them. I mean, they were quite spectacular.
The last time we spoke to you was obviously immediately after Groves' win over Eubank, and was it ever considered, obviously we know now that Groves will take place in the final against Smith, but was it ever considered that there would be a replacement going in to fight Callum Smith? Was that ever really genuinely considered?
No, I tell you the system. It's very simple. The system also which saved the second semi-final 48 hours after that interview. It was a lovely Monday morning when we got a call, and Jürgen Bremer was ill, which can happen. But because of our reserve system, substitute fighter system, the show was saved. And to be fair to Nicky Holtzken, you know, he put up 12 rounds. You know, would Jürgen Bremer have done better? Probably. But we had a decent fight. You know, we had a semi-final. That was always what we said. We will pull through with it. We won't move on cancelling a date on the week of the show, because we'll always have someone there till the last minute. And I thought that was a really good moment for the tournament. When you have all these doubters, and I've had them for the last 5-6 years, from the Super 6, said, it took too long and everything. Well, hey, that was one of the learnings. You know, we got that right. So was very happy with that. Will there be a substitute for the final? Absolutely. I can tell you now there will be a substitute for the final. There will be a substitute for the cruiserweight final. Some we're going to have.
But were they considered, if say Groves was out for longer?
Yeah, of course. If Groves is out for longer, then of course there would be a substitute.
Is it someone who's already competed in the tournament?
Not necessarily.
But could it be someone?
It could potentially.
Right.
It could have also been. It could also be a person coming in as a world champion. You know, I don't know. Ramirez,
so there's a few options, is what you're saying.
Yeah. You've got Ramirez. You've got Zoiga versus Ekpo. You've got obviously Caleb Truax. I don't know if they've announced. Have they announced the rematch?
Yeah, with De Gale.
Yeah, with De Gale.
7th of April, I think.
Yeah. So you know, all these things, they're all coulds and woulds and shoulds. At the moment, the way it is, it's a Groves Smith final. The injury is being monitored, of course, but that's the final. You know, and you know, everything goes forward according to the rule book of the World Boxing Super Series. You know, it's not that it doesn't just, you know, the discussions mainly at the press conference afterwards, they weren't you know, weren't statements, they were questions, and they turned into statements. I saw some interesting stuff this weekend in a tabloid, like, of people, you know, announcing dates and things like this. There's no date done yet. If there's a date done,
yeah, there was a couple of dates touted, and also Manchester was mentioned.
Manchester. Well, listen, in the UK it's really Manchester or London, isn't it? You know, well, I always quite fancy doing something in Birmingham once, because you sort of get a bit of both, you know. But good venue, you can turn that into a really good venue. But all those mentionings, You know, when you read a newspaper article or you read something online, always look for those little inverted commas. They're called quotes. Right? I can stand up for something that I'm quoted on because either it's the truth or it's my understanding of the truth, or that person who prints that's going to be in a lot of shit with my lawyers. So it's one of the two. It's either, in nice English, it's either bollocks, yeah, or it's the truth. Now, I didn't see any inverted commas, so if you don't see a quote from either myself or Roberto D'Amelio, the CEO of Camosa, or the World Boxing Super Series, if you don't see something from a spokesperson of a company like, say, I don't know, Matchroom putting on an anti-Joshua fight, and they just sort of say the date and there's no quote from Barry or Eddie Hearn or from anti-Joshua himself,
or from IFL TV,
or from IFL TV, of course. if you don't see quotes on articles, ignore them, because you know, journalism these days is all about producing stuff online, making sure there's a flow of information, and a lot of it, unfortunately, is total rubbish.
Okay, so what you're saying is what we've seen on social media in regards to dates and potential venues, nothing's been concretely decided yet.
Potential venues, we could say, all right, if you told me it's in July, well, I could go. There's 4 Saturdays in July, and there's 2 to 3 venues in London. So yeah, well, if I'm a betting man, I'm not too far off, am I? It's not the wildest bet to go. Was they like 14th of July in Manchester? I don't even know if Manchester's available on the 14th of July. In my area, you know, that's the event team. They're great at what they do. You've seen the productions, you've seen the venues. You know, 3 of the 4 semi-finals were total sellouts. The other one was more or less in ultimately in neutral territory. We had a Brit against a Dutchman in southern Germany. But the other 3 were major sellouts, you know, and they were hot tickets, and that's what we want to keep on doing, and you know, and that's you know, we're very happy about that.
Okay, so
we're loving the love for the brand. That's the thing moving forward. That it's amazing that I knew the fans would take to it, because I grew up on boxing. I grew up as a fan of boxing, and I've had boxing in my life since I'm born. I've had boxers as babysitters as a kid, and I've had posters on the wall of boxers growing up. It's always been a 360-degree thing for me, and I've always struggled to find those longer storylines that you develop during and a tournament is the way you bottle this over time. It's easy to say, right, I'm going to promote an event, and I've promoted a lot of big events over the years with great promoters together, some alone, some not. But when you work together, and we have worked with a lot of different promoters doing this, you see the storylines that come out of it. You know, the talking points. You talk about, you know, the Groves injury straight after the fight. You talk about you know, seniors' comments before the fight. Then you can talk about the whole cruiserweight. I mean, the fact that we had back-to-back weeks with Fight of the Year contenders, real Fight of the Year contenders. It's not Kalle saying Fight of the Year contenders. Real Fight of the Year contenders. Watch those semi-finals back. If you haven't seen those semi-finals, watch them. You want to learn about. You want to see about boxing. You want to watch best boxing. But I mean, talking the caviar of boxing. Go watch those cruiserweight semi-finals. That's the livener for the final.
Would you rule out a potential heavyweight one?
No, mate. You know, as you see, hold on. Isn't that Barclays Bank over there? Let me just pop out for a minute and see if they'll lend me 100 million. No, I mean, look, listen, but this is.
No, but because of the situation
I don't rule it out.
Yeah, but with the situation with the belts, I mean, with Joshua fighting Parker, and then obviously looking to fight Wilder, that's the belts tied up.
But it's made for it, and we will go to the heavyweights. But it's, you know, this is a.
But you couldn't.
I don't want to get all boring, but it's a business. It's run as a business. You know, it's not, you know, Kalle Sauerland would like to do the heavyweights tomorrow. Of course I'd like to do the heavyweights tomorrow. Of course I'm set the board, the heavyweights would be an amazing one. You know, please.
You couldn't really do it without the world titles involved.
But you've got to look at the shareholder structure has put so much faith into the sport of boxing. So that's something that I think everyone has to be very grateful for that likes the tournament. And we will go towards doing a heavyweight at the right time. It's not just the money at the moment, I would say. It's a lot of political factors as well. You know, you've got people around Wilder who, you know, want Wilder in the States. They want to build him in the States. You've got people around Joshua. They want to, you know, he's a UK pay-per-view product. I think Joshua will probably be easier to get to America and crack America via a Wilder fight than the other way around. I think Wilder, okay, probably has his price to come over, but does that then make economic sense for Anthony Joshua? I doubt it. I doubt it very much. You can only put the ticket prices up that much. You know, you can only sell that many pay-per-views, and I don't see that there's an economic sense. A lot of people say, oh well, it's not all about money, but it's professional boxing, unfortunately, is a big part of it, fortunately or unfortunately. But I don't. So I think you can talk about the timings of it. I think if certain champions lose, I think it'll become a lot easier. And I think that time will dictate. It won't be part of season 2. I can rule that out now, but potential for season 3.
But am I right in saying that without the world titles attached to it?
I've got to tell you a funny story. One of the day this was announced in New York last March, we had a call into the office. I was actually I just landed back. I was in Zurich, just landed back from New York, and I had a call from the office in London, and I had a call from Tyson Fury. And I thought it was a wind-up. They called the London office. I don't even have the London office number, so they called the London office. And it was somehow Tyson Fury got put through and was inquiring about the tournament, and Tyson's a good friend, and we called him back and said, no, Tyson, you got it wrong. I know there was lots of quotes, especially in the German media, about that it was a Klitschko tournament, that Klitschko was going into it at the time, and it was, you know, the winner of Joshua Klitschko. And I was like, did we say anything about heavyweight? And you know, there's that big thing about the $50 million and stuff. But ultimately, you know, I think, you know, real sportsmen, whatever division it is in, and you know, you obviously look at the Ali involvement, the Ali, you know, the Ali, this ambassadorial role, the involvement of his family estate in the tournament. You look at it, and then of course it's something that's naturally going to go towards the heavyweights. You know, in due course. You know, I mean, we've come a long way. A year ago, people thought we were mad as hatters, and this was, you know, some nice announcement, but there's never going to be a first bell on it. 6 months after the announcement, we were sitting in Berlin, and Usyk and Hook, and the first bell went, and I thought, okay, that's nice.
Just going back to what I was saying.
Did I dodge the question?
No, I didn't actually ask it. So. No, I'm saying, does it not have the appeal in the same way without the world titles attached to it, especially with like the heavyweight one? Is that a reason why you? Yeah,
I
might not do it.
I think it's important to have champions in, you know, and we sort of got I've always got an internal rule. I like to have minimum of 2 world champions. Yeah. So look at it, and I think I don't see that ruling out the heavyweights. I just think if we're going to do the heavyweights, we'll do it at the right time, and we'll do it proper. And I don't see the 2 or 3 main men in the division. For me, it's Tyson Fury, Joshua, Wilder. These are the main guys in the division. I'm not ruling out that Parker causes a big upset. It's heavyweight, anything can happen. But at the moment, those are the 3 names in the division. You've got a lot of exciting guys in the periphery. You know, you just have to look even at young kids like this, Dubois from England. You look at the Hrgovic from Croatia. You've got guys coming through as well. The heavyweights are moving. Give it 3 years, you'll see the heavyweights are not going to be 3 guys. There'll be 6, 7 guys that are very interesting. Yeah, and I think it's good now, but the levels of fights still ain't. It's still not. You know, it's not. Can't call it. You can't compare it to the Ali, Fraser, you name it years, and you can't call it the Tyson, Lewis, Holyfield years either in terms of levels, because you haven't got the depth. I'm not knocking any of the champs. I'm just saying you ain't got the depth, and that depth I feel could come back now. I think for all the good that Klitschko did for the sport in terms of being ambassadorial roles, and the two brothers, and you know, about the post Iron Curtain almost. But they also were simply too good. You know, they simply held everyone back. They were very good at what they did, very methodical. And if you look now, I think that the division is starting to really line up. You know, it's really lining up. I think massive credit to Tyson Fury on that night in Germany a couple of Novembers ago. Massive credit to Anthony Joshua for doing what he's done. And I think, you know, Wilder, he certainly showed last weekend that he's got a bit of bottle, and everyone knows he's got a bit of a punch. Because I tell you, Ortiz is a beast. You know, to put him out the way he did was, for me, that was a real fight. I enjoyed that. You know, I've got to say, well done, Deontay. It was a likeable guy as well. They're all likeable in their own way. You know, I think Tyson. I know people knock him, but you spend a day with Tyson. He's a very likeable guy, affable guy. You spend a day with Anthony Joshua, which is a very nice guy. You know, he's still very humble and everything. You know, North London boy, so I like him immediately. And the same with Deontay. You know, I think he's very charismatic. He's not an arrogant American. Now, I know you've got American viewers. I don't mean that all Americans are arrogant, but there are certain Americans that are really arrogant, and he don't seem like one of them to me. He seems like I think I met him a couple of times. He seems like a nice guy as well. So you've got characters. I think, you know, you could, as a promoter, you could make real storylines out of it. What better way than in the World Boxing Super Series? So just got to find another 5 that make the numbers up. That's all I'm saying. You know? And once again, I'm not knocking Joseph Parker. I think he's also he could turn the world on its head overnight. Where would we be then on April 1st? Well, it is April 1st, the day after, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it'd be, you know, wake up. Oh, Joshua got knocked out. Is this April 1st or not? So I don't want to tempt fate. Sorry, Anthony. Sorry, Eddie. But no, it's for me, it's an interesting fight. I'm going to go and watch that, actually. I'm going to be at Cardiff and watch that. It's a good one.
We'll definitely see you there. What, Kalle, going back to Eubank Groves, what was the feedback you got regarding the pay-per-view? Because there was a few people that I spoke to and I saw online that had a problem with the getting the pay-per-view on the night.
I think, first of all, once again, Chief Boxing Officer. That is you asked me, has he got a good left hook, right hook, good jab? I'll help you. I will however take that one.
Well, who am I meant to ask about that then?
I'll introduce you to the TV
I'll
guys.
interview them because, yeah.
Yeah, no, you do the TV guys. Look, I think, and I've heard roughly what the numbers have done. I think they've done very well.
Can you give us a rough indication or not?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not, but
okay, if you don't ask, you don't get. Yeah, go on.
I think you've got to look at it like this. I think ITV stepped up. They stepped up as a player in the pay-per-view game, which for the fans, and I know they're going to say, oh well, there's another one who's going to ask for 20 quid of my money or 16 quid or whatever it was. Yeah, but you've got to look at the competition then to make the good fights. And it will be, if you've got more than one player on that pay-per-view who can bring in big fights. Now, we're going to go back to the argument. You can't do big-time boxing in the UK without pay-per-view at the moment. It's not because Frank says it or Eddie says it. I'm telling you this as a non-UK promoter who knows economics around boxing. You can't do it, right? So if you're asked to I don't know, like split the bill with 3 pals, these days it's a pint a head, right, to watch it. So I know you're asking about the technology behind it, but it's obviously every time there's a big pay-per-view, one thing you have to realise, a pay-per-view sells 95% in the hour before. So that it's still a relatively new platform. I think they handled it very, very well. Now there'll be the people who say to me, oh, but I didn't get the black screen till the last minute. yeah, that's something that I would have to put over to the technical guys. It's not, you know, I'm not dodging the question or anything. It's just I know about left hooks, and I still use a DVD player. Actually, I've got VHS still. I'm not into Apple TV and whatever. I'm still very old-fashioned like that.
But are they looking to make that system of ordering that pay-per-view easier?
My mum, right? My mum, she got it, and she won't see this. If my mum couldn't get it on, then you know, then I'm sorry. Then you know, technologically, I think the system to set it up has got a lot better, and I think it works very well. Of course, I heard about the technical problems. I don't know enough about it to comment about it. That's my answer.
Okay.
That's the truth as well.
All right, fair enough. I know it's not really a question for you, but we are in the love bus, and I thought,
yeah, it's like lunchtime London. It's almost that time of year when the weather gets warm and you can look outside the window. And, it's getting warmer, isn't it? Yeah.
Kalle, yes. What have you made of this whole Canelo Mexican meat scandal, if you can call it that?
I mean, the first thing I'd say is, I look at him optically and I don't see a doper, but then I've seen other dopers like Erkan Tepe, who look like son out of a fast food chain store. Before he fought David Price, and he was taking every, you know, barbiturate and God knows what under the planet. I am a believer in it. If you're caught and the evidence is very clear, then I don't think you have any place to ever be in a boxing ring again. At the same time, I don't know enough about me. It just sounds so dodgy, doesn't it? I mean, you know, it's just as soon as I think I read something. I think it was Rocky Fielding. He put out a classic. Rocky Fielding. I think it was a Rocky Fielding. He put out a really funny tweet, really good one. I'm pretty sure it was Rocky Fielding. Yeah, I saw it. I was reading all the fighters' tweets, like how they. Because for me, the most interesting thing, how do the fighters accept it, and you know, I find it very difficult to believe that someone eats that much. I mean, I'm a steak eater, and I like lifting weights, and I eat a lot of steak. I can't imagine though that my testosterone levels, or whatever it was, I don't know what the thing was, that suddenly go up due to me. I mean, there was a few, was it Edgar Davids also said the same thing a few years ago, wasn't it? The Dutch footballers, they all suddenly were caught with nandrolone or testosterone or one of these steroids, and it was also blamed on the meat. Yeah, I mean, it just sounds shady. So I think the explanations need to be more clinical than I had some bad meat. At the same time, there's people who I respect in the sport very much who've come out in his defence. Now, let's say the devil's advocates who are watching this will say, yeah, but that's only because they're earning off him. Maybe. Will that fight take place? I expect so.
Is it only taking place because ultimately it's Canelo and Golovkin, the size of the fight?
Yeah, I mean,
has that got something to do with why? If this was a six rounder,
I was just about to say, it's probably the way I'd answer it. I'd answer it back with, if this was a 6-rounder down the you're cool,
or even on the card, yeah. On the same card, would it go ahead?
I just don't know enough about the case. For me, there needs to be a very clear explanation, because this isn't 100 meters, right? This isn't like I'll beat you at running. This isn't tennis where I'll serve faster than you or harder than you or more precise than you. This is, I'm going to put physical damage on you. So the second I start to take that out of my realms of what is humanly possible with what God gave me and what I put in my work ethic, you start to move into the, and this is not an exaggeration, you start to move into the world of, for me, attempted murder. Right? Because if I'm going to do something to you and I've got a tool in a court, it's attempted murder. What's the difference if I take a fist? I'm a professional fighter, they're licensed as weapons, right? If this weapon, we're just putting up here, just 2 seconds. Graham, just give me just five Back 5 minutes, yeah. We just pull up here. Just don't move. We're good.
Yeah, no worries.
All right. So the whole thing is that you literally have moved the ball. You know, you are now in a field which is it's highly dangerous, especially when you're talking about also for yourself. I mean, there's been guys. I mean, Mariusz Wach against Klitschko. I think he got done with something which stopped you getting knocked out. I mean, imagine that. A knockout, by the way, if you ask a doctor, is the body's way of saying it's over. Right? It's a reflex where you get knocked out. So if you take something to stop yourself getting knocked out, to take more punishment, you've got to be mental. I mean, you've got to be nuts. You know, you've got to be absolutely off your rocker. If you're taking something to make you more powerful so that my punches have more effect on you, sorry, what is the difference between me putting stones in my gloves? For me, it's attempted murder. It should be treated in the criminal court. Now, I don't want to get carried away. I'm not saying Canelo is guilty. I don't know anything about the case. I think you know what? I'm actually a big Canelo fan. I love watching Canelo, and it doesn't strike me as the type. But I'm not going to judge a book by its cover either. We need. He's probably he is the biggest name in the US boxing. So we need to have a very clear explanation on it. If Usain Bolt was caught tomorrow doping, you'd want a clear explanation. Well, I want a more clear explanation, because it's a physical contact sport, you know, and that's the way it needs to be treated. And I think if it's the meat, fair enough. I think it's a little bit, you know, David Hay and the toe story, isn't it? I mean, why go out with the meat? Just say, you know, we'll comment on this in due course, you know, but just to come out with this meat, I mean, it's almost so ridiculous that maybe I believe it now, because it just sounds so, you know,
But they're happy with the fact that it is meat. It's come from meat. That's what they've said, I believe, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but yeah, well, maybe I've been to Mexico, but I'll definitely be sticking on salads when I go over there.
This isn't the first time this has happened. This thing regarding Mexican meat. Why aren't the fighters as experienced as I mean, Canelo? How many fights has Canelo had? Why are they still continuing to put Mexican meat in their body? Is that a question as well? If it is a risk, I mean, of things like clenbuterol showing in the system.
Even at press conferences, after the press conference, I would say to the fighter, I said, "Did you hear that bottle click?" You know, I've seen fighters take, and I'm like, "You're nuts," you know. People are getting much more trained and used to. I mean, the guy lives in Mexico. You know, he's got enough money to fly in Kobe beef or Wagyu beef from Japan, but
it's not like the first time this has happened. That's all I'm saying.
No, exactly.
It's happened a few times.
I would point very much the finger at the team around him as well. I mean, what are they doing, letting him near contaminated meat before such a massive fight? You know, I mean, you know, the true pros I've dealt with, and I've dealt with some that, you know, I mean, there's some that, you know, they go to McDonald's and do their nutrition there. There's others. I mean, Mikkel Kessler was a good one. He took a cook wherever he went. Never seen him like it. Macrobiotic or whatever it was, an organic cook. He went out. Mikkel, even during training, went out and bought the things from his local market. So I've seen all the different examples, but would Mikkel Kessler end up in this situation? Absolutely not. Not even a chance. Not even a chance, because he would look for the best meats. Now, if you're saying it's some guy who's struggling to pay the bills, he's put his food on the kids' plates at home, I get it. But we're talking about Canelo, right? We're talking about Canelo. I don't know what paycheck he picked up last time, but it was certainly bigger than Premier League wages. Yeah? Certainly bigger than Premier League wages. So he, you know, he's not short of a few quid. Why is he eating contaminated meat? You know, I don't know. It's just a question you have to ask. You know, I mean, he's seems like a clever kid. You know, but for me, it's the people around him. He must have nutritionists. What are you using these nutritionists? You want to sack the nutritionist, Canelo. Go sack him, because I tell you, if he's giving you contaminated meat, that is, yeah, I mean, that's poor, isn't it? That's rather amateur. In a very high stakes game, and that is the highest stakes that it gets. You know, pay-per-view, USA.
We're at the. Can I say where we are?
We're in downtown Moscow.
You got a meeting now?
Yeah, I do actually. 3 minutes. 3 minutes.
Can you tell us who it's with? Or not?
You might be jealous.
What?
No, I'm joking. It's a fighter.
What, someone you're signing? What, one of Eddie's fighters? Are you talking to one of Eddie's fighters? Are you poaching?
Always.
Are you poaching?
In the UK, you quickly get these letters, you know, through the post. Love always call them love mails. Yeah, no. I'm just here, like, cruising around town,
Enjoying life.
enjoying life in the World Boxing Super Series mobile, and it's all good. It's all good.
All right. Well, listen.
Cool.
I could go on, but I am going to let you go. I know
Nice to see you.
Yeah,
Say hello to
absolutely.
James from me.
I will do.
Yeah, you say hello to James, and enjoy the show tonight, the MTK show. So actually, the bill looks pretty good. Have good luck with that. I think that stream is brilliant, by the way.
Yeah. It's a long-term vision.
Yeah.
One quick thing,
Yeah.
actually, I wanted to ask you about. It seems that you seem a bit disinvolved from Sauerland Promotions. Is that?
Well, it's a simple split, and maybe we haven't made it public enough, but we haven't split as a family. but
Disowned Nisa.
I still got Nisa, and I still got the old man. No, but it's very simple. When we launched last March, we changed the responsibility. So I left the company. So I totally left Team Sauerland, took on a full-time role at Kamosa, which is the promoters behind the World Boxing Super Series. So it was a move that had to be taken, because ultimately we have very serious shareholders behind it. You know, there's an obvious, you know, argument of conflict of interest, which I think that I've proven certainly in the first season. You know, we don't favour any Team Sauerland fighters. You know. And that was for me very important, because there's people who have put trust in the project, and that's that, you know. So I'm very much on the World Boxing Super Series. My brother is running the team, with a big team for the Scandinavian and the German operations, and the other stuff that Team Sauerland does globally. And you know, that part is totally separate for us from the Kamosa business, and that's why I'm very much on the World Boxing Super Series. I mean, next weekend there's a good Team Sauerland show. Tyron Zeuger against Ekpo for the WBA world title. I'll go to that.
So apart from you being there,
I won't be
present.
standing at the weigh-in. I won't be at the press conferences. I won't do any interviews on it. I'll give my opinions on it, but I'm not going to go out there and actively promote. That's my brother's job, and my dad's job, and their team's job, you know. So you know, I think they're doing very well. They've got this great new TV deal in Germany. I think it's like 100 shows in 3 years, so that's great. And Scandinavia's doing very well, and you know, and it's all good, you know. That's a little bit the way it's we've carved things up. Yeah.
Okay. So the cut and shut of it is you're not involved in Sauerland Promotions.
Team Sauerland is very much Nissa Sauerland, and yeah. Still share his Twitter page for the moment, but that's what we're doing. We're trying to separate it, but we're very much. You know,
who keeps the followers?
We're very close brothers. That's the thing. We're very close outside of. I mean, we talk far too much boxing. Often we'll be like in the gym or something, and he'll start talking about boxing. I'll start talking about what says. Shut up about boxing now. I can't do that. You know, I think we're two maniacs, but we're very, very close. I mean, we're 2 years apart. And, that's the way it is.
Okay.
You have a good day. Enjoy Liverpool.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm away there now.
And
we'll catch up soon. The next time you literally fly in and fly out.
Look forward to it, mate.
Kalle Sauerland, thank you very much for talking to IFL TV, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Cool.
Keep it real.
Keep it real, cool.
Time in history, all 4 belts in the cruiserweight division will belong proudly around the waist of one man.